all for being here today. As we begin, I want to recognize my partners who are with us today and some who are not with us today. City Council President Mosby, State Senators Corey McCray, Antonio Hayes, and Mary Washington, Delegate Stephanie Smith, Councilwoman Odette Ramos, and many other community partners, as well as our city agencies, for coming together and being here today for a very, very important announcement. I'm here today with an important announcement and update related to the tax sale. Many of you joined us in May when my administration took a vital step that prevented 2,500 owner-occupied homes facing tax sale for the first time from going to the auction block. That was a necessary and immediate measure to address that issue, and the action our administration had the authority to take according to current state law. But as we mentioned in May, we also have a plan for the long term to equip our residents with the tools and information they need that ultimately will keep them housed. Today's announcement is about being targeted and strategic in our approach to protect our legacy homeowners while promoting equity across our city, immediately and for the future. First, I'm excited to announce that my administration will prioritize changes to this system, including policy change on the state level, through the creation of a work group to focus on long-term fixes to the tax sale issue. This tax sale work group will be chaired by Deputy City Administrator Daniel Ramos, who is with us today, and Dan Ellis, Executive Director of Neighborhood Housing Services of Baltimore, who is also here with us today. I want to thank everyone who's agreed to serve on our work group, including our chairs. The remainder of the membership are as follows: Margaret K. Henn from Maryland Volunteer Lawyer Services, Nika Namdi from Flight Baltimore, Owen Davis from St. Ambrose Housing Aid Centers, Shannon Rolfe Gormley from the Community Law Center, Claudia Wilson Randall from Community Development Network of Maryland, Heidi Kennedy, a tax sale purchaser, agency and ex officio members from DPW, DHCD, Department of Finance, and Baltimore City IT. Focus on equity and our legacy residents. This group, comprised of leading advocates on this issue and experts on this issue, and the process will identify the current gaps in the system, advise on things like technological upgrades that will allow residents to sign up for payment plans on their liens, and work with our state legislatures to get Baltimore City more local authority over the entire process, something we currently lack. We know that the tax sale has not been fair to many of our city's low-income homeowners. And this brings us to our second announcement. We have seen how this public health emergency of COVID-19 has led to an economic fallout, one that puts pressure on homeowners and everyone, but particularly our legacy homeowners. And as your mayor of Baltimore, I remain committed to using every tool and resource available to ensure that no one loses their home to tax sale. In that vein, I am announcing today that the City of Baltimore will be purchasing the liens on 454 owner-occupied homes that were sold in the tax sale. These are also the homes where tax liens outweigh the property's evaluations. This will effectively satisfy the standing liens on those properties, taking them out of the tax sale process and allow those homeowners to start fresh with a clean slate. This is an interim action my administration is taking while this tax sale work group works towards comprehensive reform. We have to work together to prioritize equity, and this is why I'm taking these steps to provide relief to homeowners now while committing to do the tough long-term work that has to be done. Before we hear from City Administrator Shorter, I want to turn it over to one of the co-chairs of the tax sale work group, Mr. Dan Ellis, to say a few words. Dan?
Thank you, Mayor Scott, for your leadership on this issue, this critical issue. At NHS Baltimore and with many of our partners, we believe that social and economic justice are a right for all people. And we're excited that in our administration, we now share that value and have a mayor that is committed to bringing equity to the residents and citizens of Baltimore. Tax sale, in more than 20 years of working in Baltimore, tax sale is one of the most unjust systems that I've encountered. So I am grateful to the mayor for his willingness to address it head on, create a work group that can work creatively to find solutions that work both for the city, generating the needed revenue, and for the residents, ensuring that they are protected from high-cost predatory practices. I look forward to working with the mayor and his entire administration to ensure that we develop a system that works well for our residents. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And now we will hear from our city administrator, Chris Shorter. Mr. Administrator.
All right, good morning, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your persistent and bold leadership on this issue. I also want to thank our Deputy City Administrator, Daniel Ramos, for his leadership, the Departments of Finance, Law, Information Technology, and Housing, who have all worked tremendously hard to make tax sale a fairer and more equitable process for our city residents. The work that has been done and the roadmap we have collectively developed on tax sale is a perfect example of how successful we can be when we are coordinated between agencies, advocates, and the private sector. It represents the type of inclusive leadership that Mayor Scott is known for and how the City Administrator's Office approaches solving entrenched issues throughout city government. In the coming weeks, my office will be working with the Department of Finance, Information Technology to execute redemptions of these liens and notify homeowners. We hope that this act will be a lifeline for struggling families as they bear through COVID-19. I know that the work is just beginning, and there will be many challenges in implementing a better and more fair tax sale system, and I look forward to collaborating with members of this working group in creating a fairer system for homeowners in the city. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And lastly, we'll turn it over to our City Council President, Nick Mosby, for remarks on this issue. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We know the stronger our families are, the stronger our communities, and the stronger our communities, the stronger our city is. We understand and know that this draconian and predatory practice has ripped the limited generational wealth away from thousands upon thousands of families here in the city of Baltimore. And I would like to personally applaud the mayor for this bold action today, not just as it relates to the 554 families who will not have to worry about potentially being displaced, but to the thousands of families moving forward of ensuring that we do the right thing as a city, of protecting their generational wealth that they all have a right and deserve. When we talk about our communities and we look at the past census, we see the breakdown of certain communities, the same communities, Mr. Mayor, that were affected by redlining, the same communities that have been affected by urban renewal, the same communities that we have our systemic issues that plague. We understand and know that this sits at the core of it. It's having access, having ownership to that particular community. And coming together today, again, the mayor and I are signaling extraordinary commitment to the city's tax sale that's taken homes from residents for years. The council will be a legislative body that will work hand in hand with the administration to ensure that we reimagine the process to put our residents first. This work builds on the commitment of reform. During my tenure as in the state as a delegate, Mr. Mayor, I passed legislation that ended the draconian practice of taking homes away based off of late water bills. I look forward to learning more from the work group and working hand in hand with the work group of identifying legislative solutions that the city can work on through our council. As president, I'm ready to support those solutions and the sound legislation that creates better outcomes for our residents, especially our most vulnerable families. Again, we know home ownership in our city has fallen. Between 2007 and 2017, home ownership in Baltimore fell from 51% to 47%. And black ownership in our city sank to 42%. This was a report done by the Able Foundation. We need to continue to find better ways to increase home ownership, and that starts with supporting our legacy residents and starts with supporting legislation and work group like the mayor is putting forth today. Programs like this mean that we stand a shot for our 2030 census. We can't just sit around and wait for it. We have to take immediate action. And again, I thank the mayor for his bold leadership and applaud him and his administration, and look forward to working with the work group.
Thank you, Mr. President. The City Council has been an active partner in this work, and I want to recognize the work of both Councilwoman Ramos and my Councilwoman McCray, for working on this topic legislatively and being deep advocates about tax sale. And I'd be remiss if I did not uplift, as you heard from the Council President, the work of our state delegation, who has been at the forefront of addressing this issue. And we look forward to continuing to work closely with both our state and local legislative bodies as we work to resolve this tax sale issue once and for all. And now I'd like to open it up to the press for some questions on this morning's announcement. Dave?
Hi, good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning, sir.
Just for clarification purposes, how many liens did the city purchase, and what is the time frame of the work group to come up with recommendations?
So it's 454, and once the work group sits for the first time, they will be developing the time frame of how we move forward from there. Thank you, sir. Alexa?
With the liens, where is that funding coming from? Is that something the city can afford?
It's coming out of the city budget, and as you know, the city has to have a balanced budget, so yes, we can afford it, and we know that we cannot afford to have 454 legacy homeowners not be in their homes.
I also wanted to ask you about crime and education. Two big topics in Baltimore, of course, here today. There is the oversight hearing for the investigation into Augusta Fells tonight. Next week, the Public Safety Committee hearing, oversight hearing. How effective are these oversight hearings? Are they working?
Well, Alexa, I think that we have to get your station to actually ask real questions. I am not a legislator. That question should be asked to the legislative body. And what we're talking about, oversight hearings are about making sure that our legislative bodies, or in this case the school system's bodies, are feeling and seeing that people are working at their job. For me, I have my own oversight meetings with the police department. That's how I hold them accountable. And when you look at the things that have been happening in just the past few weeks, for example, from the 8th of September to yesterday, we arrested 5 people for homicide and 10 for non-fatal shooting, more for guns even than that. It's about working every day to resolve what's happening in our city, not about trying to give in to sensationalization. Dave? Yeah.
Question, why is the Gallery Mall closing? What is the future of that location, and how is the city involved, and what improvements are being asked for?
Yeah, I think that, Dave, great question. I think that we understand that when you're talking about the gallery in Harbor Place, it is something that has basically been in decay for over 20 years. And we've had leadership, especially the companies that have been owning those places that have been, as you know, basically absent. We know in the gallery place, malls around the country are closing, so it's no surprise malls are struggling. That's about what's happening, how people shop in a different way. But for us, it's about how we're going to be working as administration. You know, we can't talk about it publicly, that we've been working through the receivership process with Harbor Place, looking at how we're going to bring back that entire area into the new version of itself. We can no longer subscribe to having it return to the 1980s glory, because this is not the 1980s. It's about putting things in the 21st century, making sure that when people come to Baltimore, they are coming to see the best of Baltimore, not the best of chain restaurants, not the best of chain locations, but the best of our city. And as we work to get the new ownership into Harbor Place and working with the folks at the gallery, that's the vision that we want to push, and that's the vision that the folks who are still operating businesses downtown and who live in downtown, one of our fastest growing neighborhoods, want to see. Thank you.